The quantum anomaly appeared over Antarctica without warning. Dr. Sarah Chen was the first to notice it, a peculiar distortion in the atmospheric readings that shouldn't have been possible. As the lead researcher at the Global Quantum Detection Array, she had spent years searching for signs of advanced civilizations. Now, staring at her monitors in the underground facility, she knew humanity's solitude in the cosmos was about to end. "Director Matthews, you need to see this," she called, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. The facility's warning systems hadn't activated. They weren't designed to detect something that broke the fundamental laws of physics. The anomaly grew, stretching reality like a soap bubble about to burst. When it finally popped, a ship emerged. Not the sleek, silver discs of science fiction, but a grotesque amalgamation of crystalline structures and organic matter, its surface riddled with damage that looked suspiciously like weapons fire. Within hours, every major military power had weapons trained on the vessel hovering motionless above the Antarctic ice. But it was the ship that made first contact, broadcasting on every frequency simultaneously. "People of Earth, I am Ambassador Keksixi of the Free World's Remnant. I come bearing terrible news and a burden no species should have to bear." The transmission showed a being that appeared almost aquatic, with translucent skin and multiple sets of eyes that moved independently. "The Mindweavers are coming. They have already consumed 37 civilizations, turning entire species into extensions of their collective consciousness. Earth is one of the last bastions of free thought in this spiral arm of the galaxy." Global leaders convened an emergency session of the United Nations. Dr. Chen found herself rushed to New York, seated beside military commanders and heads of state as Ambassador Keksixi explained humanity's dire situation. "The Mindweavers aren't just conquerors," the ambassador's translated voice echoed through the chamber. "They are parasites of consciousness itself. They inject their psychic presence into the minds of entire populations, turning them into willing slaves who believe they have always been part of the collective." "Why haven't they taken your people?" General Maria Santos of Brazil asked, her fingers drumming against the polished wood of the conference table. "Because we're already dead," Keksixi replied, its skin shifting to a darker shade. "What you see before you is a quantum projection. My actual body, along with the last survivors of my species, exists in a state of suspended animation, hidden in a temporal pocket dimension within this ship. We are the last free minds of 12 different species, preserved to warn others and seek a solution." Dr. Chen leaned forward. "But why come to us? We're barely achieving quantum computing. We haven't even colonized our own solar system yet." The ambassador's multiple eyes focused on her. "Because you have something unique, something we've never seen before. Your species evolved with an unprecedented capacity for individual thought combined with complex social structures. You can lie. You can create fiction. You can hold contradictory beliefs. Do you know how rare that is in the cosmos?" The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Most species evolve either as strictly individual organisms or with hive mind characteristics. Keksixi continued. "But humans, you exist in a perpetual state of cognitive dissonance. You can believe in things you know aren't true. You can reject truth for comfort. It's inefficient, illogical, and it might be the key to defeating the Mindweavers." "How long do we have?" President Chen of China asked, his face grave. 3 of your Earth months, at most. They've already begun their approach, consuming quantum energy from the systems they pass through. But we haven't come empty-handed." The ambassador gestured, and holographic schematics appeared in the air. "This is the combined technological knowledge of 12 civilizations. Quantum shielding, consciousness encryption, temporal manipulation. Everything we developed trying to stop them. None of it worked for us, but perhaps, with your unique minds, you can find applications we never imagined." The next few days passed in a blur of activity. The world's leading scientists, including Dr. Chen, were given access to the alien database. Military forces worldwide began mobilizing for a threat they barely understood. And humanity faced its greatest challenge: learning to weaponize the very aspects of their psychology that they had often seen as flaws. Dr. Chen worked through sleepless nights, analyzing the alien technology through the lens of human consciousness. "We need to stop thinking of this as a purely technological problem," she announced during one late-night session. "The Mindweavers expect logical, direct resistance, but humans, we're anything but logical." She pulled up a simulation of human neural patterns compared to other species. "Look at this chaos, these contradictions. Where other species see disorder, we create art. Where they seek unity, we celebrate diversity. Our greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to be gloriously, impossibly human." As the first month drew to a close, humanity prepared for war unlike any they had ever imagined. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the right to keep their doubts, their dreams, their delusions, and their determination. The price of first contact had been the end of human innocence, but perhaps that price would buy them something far more valuable. A future where the galaxy's last free minds could show the universe the power of being impossibly, irrationally human. In the quantum detection facility, Dr. Chen stared at the latest readings from deep space. The Mindweaver's approach was visible now, a wave of darkness consuming the very fabric of reality. But for the first time since the ambassador's arrival, she smiled. Because where other species saw approaching doom, humanity saw a challenge. And if there was one thing humans had proven throughout their history, it was that they were at their best when the odds were at their worst. The research facility beneath MIT had transformed into a hive of activity, its corridors now lined with a bizarre fusion of human and alien technology. Dr. Sarah Chen walked past rooms where neuroscientists worked alongside quantum physicists, their debates echoing through reinforced walls. They had 56 days until the Mindweavers arrived, and every second counted. Ambassador Kexixi's quantum projection flickered beside her as they entered the main laboratory. The alien's translucent form cast no shadow, a constant reminder of the fate they were trying to prevent. "Your species continues to surprise us," it said, multiple eyes tracking different screens simultaneously. "No other civilization has ever attempted to weaponize cognitive dissonance." Sarah gestured to the central display, where brain scans from human volunteers pulsed with chaotic energy patterns. "It's not just cognitive dissonance. We've identified 7 unique psychological traits that might give us an edge." Dr. Rodriguez, show the ambassador what we found. Maria Rodriguez, Earth's leading neuropsychologist, stepped forward. "Humans have an extraordinary capacity for something we call compartmentalization. We can hold contradictory beliefs without internal conflict. We can know something is true while believing it's false. This creates neural patterns that are practically impossible to predict or control." The display shifted to show comparative scans. "Every other species you've shown us has organized, logical thought patterns. Even your most creative individuals think in structured ways. But humans," she pointed to the chaos of colors and connections, "we're a mess, a beautiful, functional mess. And you believe this mess can resist the Mindweavers." Kexixi's skin rippled with skepticism. "We don't just believe it, we've proved it." Sarah pulled up the results from their latest experiments using salvaged Mindweaver technology. "When we exposed human volunteers to simulated psychic attacks, something fascinating happened. Instead of fighting the intrusion directly, their minds created spontaneous psychological defenses, fantasies, daydreams, alternative realities. The Mindweavers work by imposing their collective consciousness over individual minds," Rodriguez continued. "But how do you overwrite a consciousness that already exists in multiple states? We're natural reality benders." In the adjacent testing chamber, volunteers were undergoing the latest trials. Sarah watched as Dr. James Chen, no relation, sat in the modified quantum interface chair. The young physicist had proven exceptionally resistant to psychic manipulation. "Beginning test sequence," a technician announced. The air hummed with energy as they activated the salvaged Mindweaver tech. James's brain scans exploded with activity. "What's he doing?" Kexixi asked, moving closer to the observation window. Sarah checked the neural feedback. He's imagining he's a character in his favorite novel while simultaneously working on a quantum physics equation and remembering his grandmother's cookie recipe. She couldn't help but smile. "We call it active cognitive fragmentation. The Mindweavers try to grab his consciousness, but which one?" The test concluded successfully, James emerging with nothing worse than a headache and a craving for cookies. But it wasn't all good news. Sarah led the ambassador to a secure briefing room where General Santos waited with the latest intelligence. "The Mindweavers have accelerated their approach," the general announced, bringing up a holographic map of local space. "They've consumed 3 more star systems in the past week. We're looking at 40 days at most." "Then we need to move faster," Sarah said, pulling up her latest proposal. "We've proven humans can resist individual psychic attacks. Now we need to scale up. I want to network human minds together, not in a hive mind like the Mindweavers, but in something new. A chaos network." The general's eyes narrowed. "You want to connect human minds? After everything we know about what the Mindweavers do." "Not connect. Entangle. Quantum entanglement at the consciousness level. Each mind staying completely independent, but linked in a web of shared chaos. Imagine billions of humans, each thinking their own impossible thoughts, creating a psychic storm no logical being could penetrate." "It's never been done," Kexixi said. "It's skin-paling. The energy requirements alone." "That's where your temporal pocket dimension technology comes in." Sarah brought up the schematics they developed. "We use the same principles that keep your people in stasis, but instead of freezing consciousness, we amplify it. Every human mind becomes a quantum generator of chaos." The next few weeks were a blur of preparation. Around the world, quantum amplification stations were constructed using a combination of Earth's industrial capacity and alien technology. Volunteers lined up by the millions to have their minds mapped for the network, each one contributing their own unique pattern of wonderful irrationality to humanity's defensive web. But as they worked, the stars began going dark. The Mindweaver's approach was visible to the naked eye now, a wave of nothingness consuming the night sky. Humanity watched, and for the first time in their history, they faced an enemy that threatened not just their bodies or their planet, but the very essence of what made them human. In her private moments, Sarah found herself drawn to the quantum observatory, watching the approaching darkness. She thought about all the species that had fallen, their orderly, logical minds absorbed into the Mindweavers' collective. Perhaps, she mused, the universe had been preparing humanity for this moment all along. Every myth, every dream, every contradiction and irrationality. They weren't flaws in human consciousness. They were armor. The first tests of the global chaos network were scheduled for the next day. As Sarah reviewed the final calculations, she received an urgent message from the Deep Space Array. The Mindweavers had changed course, accelerating directly toward Earth. They knew humanity was different. They knew humanity was preparing. And for the first time in their ancient history, the Mindweavers knew fear. The quantum amplification towers rose like silver needles against the dawn sky, a global network of humanity's last hope. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the window of the Global Defense Command Center, watching the sunrise paint the nearest tower in shades of gold. 23 days remained until the Mindweavers' arrival, but their influence was already being felt. Reports came in hourly of people experiencing strange dreams, flashes of alien thoughts, and moments of inexplicable unity. The Mindweavers were testing Earth's defenses, probing for weaknesses in humanity's psychological armor. But they had found something unexpected: resistance. Neural activity reports from Shanghai, Dr. Rodriguez announced, bringing up a holographic display. They tried another mass synchronization attempt at 300 hours. Look at the response pattern. Sarah studied the chaotic swirl of colors representing human brain activity. Where the Mindweavers attempted to impose order, human minds had responded with increasingly complex forms of disorder. People had instinctively created elaborate fantasies, engaged in circular logic, or simply thought about nothing at all, their minds becoming quantum noise generators that disrupted the alien influence. "General Santos, you need to see this," Sarah called, noticing a pattern in the data. The Brazilian general approached, her uniform crisp despite the late hour. "The Mindweavers aren't just testing us. They're learning. Each attack is more sophisticated than the last. Then we need to accelerate the timeline," Santos replied, turning to the global command display. "Ambassador Kexixi, are the quantum resonance chambers ready?" The alien's projection appeared, its skin a worried shade of gray. 17 facilities are operational, but rushing the consciousness integration could be catastrophic. No species has ever attempted to network billions of minds while maintaining individual autonomy. No species until now, Sarah corrected, pulling up the latest simulation results. The chaos network doesn't just protect individual consciousness, it amplifies it. Every human mind connected to the network becomes a quantum broadcaster of irrationality, creativity, and impossible thoughts. The next few days passed in a blur of final preparations. Around the world, humanity organized itself with unprecedented unity, all while maintaining the very chaos that made them unique. Street artists painted reality-bending murals on the quantum towers. Musicians composed songs specifically designed to create cognitive dissonance. Writers released stories that deliberately contradicted themselves, training human minds to exist in multiple states of belief simultaneously. The first full test of the Chaos Network was scheduled for dawn. Sarah stood in the primary control chamber, surrounded by screens showing neural activity from across the globe. Ambassador Kexixi observed from a safe distance. Even its quantum projection could be affected by what they were about to attempt. Initiating primary sequence, Sarah announced, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. Beginning with North America, expanding to full global coverage over 30 minutes. The first quantum resonance chamber activated, its energy connecting to the minds of millions of volunteers. On the screens, human consciousness flowered into patterns never before seen in the universe. Where other species' thoughts moved in predictable waves, human minds created storms of possibility. Second phase engaging, Dr. Rodriguez reported. Asia and Europe coming online. Neural load within expected parameters. Sarah felt at the moment the network reached critical mass, a sensation like standing in a storm of dreams. Around the world, billions of human minds touched each other while remaining distinctly themselves. Each person became a quantum node, broadcasting their unique form of wonderful irrationality into space. And then they heard it, the screams of the Mindweavers. The alien consciousness that had consumed 37 civilizations recoiled from Earth's chaotic defense. Where they sought to impose unity, they found division. Where they expected order, they found beautiful chaos. Where they looked for minds to dominate, they found humans who could believe 6 impossible things before breakfast. "They're accelerating," General Santos announced, reading the deep space telemetry. "The main fleet will reach Earth in 15 days. "Good," Sarah replied, surprising everyone in the command center. "Let them come. Every attack they've launched has made us stronger. Their attempts to synchronize our thoughts have only taught us new ways to be wonderfully, impossibly human." She turned to Ambassador Kexixi, whose multiple eyes were wide with something like hope. "You came to us because we were different. Because we could lie, imagine, and believe in contradictions. But you didn't realize what that really meant. We're not just resistant to the Mindweavers, we're their antithesis." The ambassador's skin shifted through colors of amazement. "You're going to do more than resist them, aren't you? You're going to change them." Sarah nodded, watching as the Chaos Network grew stronger with each passing moment. The Mindweavers believe in perfect unity, in the power of a single shared consciousness. But humanity, we believe in the beauty of discord, in the strength of diversity, in the power of minds that can think the unthinkable. In orbit, Automated defense platforms detected the first wave of the Mindweaver fleet entering the solar system. They moved like a cloud of living darkness, consuming light and thought wherever they passed. But for the first time in their ancient history, they encountered something they couldn't understand. A species that turned psychological weakness into strength, that wielded chaos like a weapon, that could face the impossible and laugh. Operation Dark Shield was more than humanity's defense. It was their declaration to the universe. They would not be consumed. They would not be unified. They would remain gloriously, impossibly human. And in doing so, they would teach even the Mindweavers the power of beautiful chaos. The Mindweavers struck Mars first. Earth's fledgling colonies on the Red Planet watched as the wave of living darkness descended, consuming everything in its path. But the colonists were ready. As the alien consciousness reached for their minds, it found not fear, but laughter. Dr. Sarah Chen watched the feeds from Mars Command, her heart racing as the first true battle between humanity and the Mindweavers began. The colonists had been chosen specifically for their high psychological resilience and capability for cognitive dissonance. Now they proved their worth. Mars Colony Actual, reporting successful deflection. The commander's voice crackled through quantum channels. You should see their confusion. They tried to synchronize with our minds and got cat memes and conspiracy theories instead. General Santos allowed herself a rare smile. All stations, maintain defensive posture. Remember your training. The more impossible your thoughts, the stronger our defense. The Mindweavers' attack on Mars revealed their desperation. In all their ancient history, they had never encountered a species that could resist their influence. Now they faced not just resistance, but counterattack. Every human mind connected to the Chaos Network became a broadcaster of impossible thoughts, of dreams and contradictions that disrupted the very fabric of the Mindweavers' collective consciousness. Energy surge detected. A technician called out. They're attempting to breach Luna's orbital space. Sarah moved to the quantum observatory, watching as the darkness approached Earth's moon. The lunar defense stations activated, their quantum resonance chambers amplifying the chaotic thoughts of the human crews. Where the Mindweavers expected to find orderly, terrified minds ready for absorption, they instead encountered a psychological storm of poetry, mathematics, and pure human stubbornness. They're adapting, Ambassador Kexixi observed, its projection analyzing the battle data. Look at these pattern shifts. They're trying to match human consciousness. Let them try, Sarah replied, a fierce pride in her voice. The more they understand us, the more they expose themselves to our chaos. The battle for Luna lasted 3 days. The Mindweavers threw everything they had at Earth's lunar defenses, waves of psychic energy designed to overwhelm and absorb human consciousness. But humanity had spent its entire existence preparing for this moment, though they hadn't known it. Every story, every dream, every act of imagination had been practiced for the ultimate defense of their minds. On the 4th day, something unprecedented happened. A section of the Mindweaver fleet retreated, their unified consciousness showing signs of fragmentation. Human chaos had infected them, introducing concepts they had never encountered. Doubt, creativity, individual thought. Primary fleet approaching Earth orbit, General Santos announced. All stations, prepare for maximum engagement. Sarah felt the Chaos Network surge as billions of human minds prepared for battle. The quantum amplification towers thrummed with energy, broadcasting humanity's cognitive discord into space. Artists imagined impossible colors. Musicians composed songs that could only exist in dreams. Writers crafted stories that began at their endings and ended at their beginnings. The Mindweavers struck at dawn, their darkness descending like a curtain over the earth. But where they expected to find prey, they found predators. Human minds reached out through the Chaos Network, not to fight the Mindweavers' unity, but to infect it with imagination. Look at these readings, Dr. Rodriguez called out, her eyes wide with excitement. The Mindweavers' collective consciousness, it's starting to fragment. They're experiencing individual thoughts for the first time in their history. The battle raged across the planet, invisible to normal senses, but felt by every human connected to the network. The Mindweavers tried to impose their will, to force humanity into their perfect unity. Instead, they found themselves drowning in a sea of human creativity. Children's dreams slipped through their defenses like quantum torpedoes. The collected knowledge of human fiction, billions of impossible stories accumulated over millennia, became a weapon more powerful than any physical armament. The Mindweavers had never faced a species that could imagine dragons while calculating quantum physics, that could believe in both science and magic simultaneously, that could think in metaphors and speak in riddles. Energy fluctuations in the enemy fleet, a sensor operator reported. Their formation is breaking down. Individual ships are beginning to move independently. Sarah watched in amazement as the perfect unity of the Mindweaver fleet began to dissolve. Some ships retreated, while others pressed the attack with increasing desperation. The collective consciousness that had consumed 37 civilizations was experiencing something entirely new: chaos. They're not just losing, Ambassador Kexexi realized, its skin shifting through colors of astonishment. They're changing. Human consciousness is infecting their network, introducing concepts they've never encountered. Individual thought, creativity, free will. The battle for Earth became more than a fight for survival. It became a revolution. Every human mind connected to the Chaos Network became a beacon of individuality, broadcasting the message that had defined their species since its inception: that chaos could be beautiful, that difference could be strength, that unity did not require uniformity. As the sun set on the first day of Earth's defense, the Mindweavers faced a choice they had never encountered in their ancient existence. They could retreat, abandoning their attempt to absorb humanity, or they could continue their attack and risk being transformed by the very chaos they sought to eliminate. In their perfect unity for the first time in eons, the Mindweavers experienced something uniquely human: doubt. The Mindweavers' perfect unity had shattered like glass against the mountain of human consciousness. Their fleet hung in Earth's orbit, individual ships moving in erratic patterns as chaos thread through their collective mind. After 5 days of continuous psychic warfare, humanity had done more than resist. They had infected their would-be conquerors with the gift of individual thought. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the quantum observatory, watching the unprecedented event unfold. Beside her, Ambassador Kexixi's projection flickered with intense emotion, its skin cycling through colors never before seen in its species. "They're requesting communication," General Santos announced, her voice tight with cautious hope. "Not just with military command. They want to connect to the Chaos Network itself." Sarah turned to the ambassador. "Is this possible? Could this be another attack strategy?" "No," Kexixi replied. "It's multiple eyes focused on the fleet above. Look at their energy signatures. The uniformity. It's gone. They're becoming individuals." The decision was made quickly. Under heavily controlled conditions, Earth's defense network would allow a limited connection with the Mindweaver consciousness. Sarah took her position at the primary quantum interface, her mind joining billions of others in the Chaos Network. The contact was electric. Where before the Mindweavers had been a wall of unified thought, now they were a symphony of individual voices, each discovering its own unique identity for the first time in countless millennia. We are changed. The Mindweaver consciousness spoke through the network, its thoughts fracturing into distinct personalities. "What have you done to us?" Sarah projected her thoughts clearly. "We showed you another way to exist. Unity doesn't require uniformity. Strength doesn't come from perfect order." Through the quantum link, she felt the Mindweavers struggling with concepts they had never needed before: individual identity, personal desire, the beauty of difference. Their consciousness, once a singular ocean, had become a million distinct streams, each discovering its own course. "Your species," another Mindweaver voice emerged, distinct from the first, "you thrive on chaos. We thought it was weakness. We were wrong. Ambassador Kexexi stepped forward, its projection interfacing with the network. The civilizations you consumed, can they be restored? A wave of complex emotions flowed through the link. Guilt, regret, hope. The absorbed consciousness patterns were preserved. We never destroyed, only unified. Now, with individuality, we could release them. The implications staggered everyone in the command center. 37 civilizations might live again, each mind freed from the collective, given back its unique identity. The Mindweavers, in learning chaos from humanity, could become the key to the galaxy's rebirth. Over the next several days, an unprecedented transformation took place. The Mindweaver fleet, once a perfect geometric formation, reorganized itself into organic, evolving patterns. Each ship became a reflection of its crew's newly discovered individuality. Deep within the vessels, locked in temporal stasis, the absorbed civilizations began to stir. The Mindweavers, guided by humanity's example, carefully began the process of disentangling billions of minds from their collective consciousness. Each freed mind emerged changed, carrying both its original identity and the lesson humanity had taught. That difference was not weakness, that chaos could birth creation. Ambassador Kexixi's people were among the first to be restored. Sarah washed through happy tears as the quantum projection was replaced by physical reality. The ambassador's actual body, preserved in the ship's temporal field, finally awakening. "We never imagined," Kexixi said, touching solid ground for the first time in centuries, "that salvation would come from a species that celebrated its own contradictions. We sought unity in uniformity. You showed us unity in diversity." The Mindweavers became something entirely new, a civilization of individuals who could choose to connect, rather than a collective that consumed all difference. Their ancient knowledge, combined with their new understanding of chaos theory, opened doors to scientific advancement beyond anything humanity had dreamed. And humanity, they had proven that their greatest perceived weaknesses, their chaos, their contradictions, their stubborn individuality, were actually their greatest strengths. The galaxy would never again underestimate the species that could think 6 impossible thoughts before breakfast, that could believe in science and magic simultaneously, that could face the darkness of space with both fear and wonder in their hearts. In the years that followed, Earth became a center of galactic renaissance. The quantum amplification towers, once weapons of defense, became bridges between civilizations. The Chaos Network evolved into an interstellar forum where species could share their unique perspectives while maintaining their individual identities. Dr. Sarah Chen often found herself back at the Quantum Observatory, watching ships from dozens of restored civilizations moving through Earth's orbit. Each one carried minds that had learned humanity's most important lesson, that the universe was not a place of perfect order to be imposed, but a canvas of beautiful chaos to be explored. The Mindweavers had sought to make the galaxy uniform. Instead, humanity had made it free. And in that freedom, in the beautiful chaos of billions of minds, thinking their own thoughts, dreaming their own dreams, and sharing their unique perspectives, the galaxy had found something greater than unity. It had found harmony.